All right, it's time for another edition of Hitting the Books, where we look at the best bets for Week 15 of the NFL season. And joining me to break it down is a sports betting analyst with the New York Post. His name is Erich Ritcher, and he joins me now. Erich, what's going on?
Dex, how we doing?
Doing good, doing good. Can't believe that it's Week 15 already. I feel like it was just Week 1 the other day, but there's some really intriguing matchups this week. Unfortunately, they do not have to do with the local teams. But we're going to start with the local teams. We're going to start with the Giants, Erich, who are hosting the Ravens. The spread in this game is the largest spread this season. Big Blue, 16.5-point underdogs here. Total points line, 42.5 in this one. Tommy DeVito will be back under center for the G-Men. Should the Giants here be more than 2 touchdown underdogs? And would you bet them to cover against Baltimore here, Erich?
Well, in the interest of clarity, not every game out there is worth betting on, right? The Giants come in here, they're 16.5-point underdogs. I'm interested in just the fact that DeVito is 2.5 points worse than Drew Lock. I think that's interesting. I'm not sure that either quarterback is an NFL player. So we'll just jump off the bat there. The Giants, their defense isn't bad. I mean, it's sans Dexter Lawrence, sans Erich. Both of them aren't playing, so they're definitely short-handed on the defensive side. But they're number 12 ranked by Pro Football Focus. They're actually coming up on one of their better defensive performances of the year against the Saints, who are nothing to write home about offensively, not in the same ballpark as Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. I'm not betting the Giants plus 16.5 here. It just would never happen. There's way more other games on this slate that I'm more interested in betting on. For me, I'm looking at Tyrone Tracy over 15.5 receiving yards. He's one of the best receiving backs in the league. He's over that number in 3 straight games. He's been getting tons of looks. He got 10 targets last week. And in every game that DeVito has started, he's 2 for 2 covering this number. You get the game script. It's going to be 16.5. They're going to be throwing the ball in the second half. So lots of dump off opportunities for Tyrone Tracy. Looking for a long shot. You can go 50-plus receiving yards at plus 900 over on Bet365. But there's just no way I'm betting the Giants against the spread here. I think that the number is too high, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I think the Giants are still trying, but they're just not talented enough to be. They're not going to get any of my money. You know what I'm saying? There's just no way.
Thing is, Erich, somebody out there is going to believe. Somebody out there is going to say, hey, man, the spread is too high. Some value in here. I'm going to do it. I understand where you're going. I do like that Tyrone Tracy prop. Won't be you, though. Won't be you, and you're advising the people to not do so. But there's some good value, like you said. That Tyrone Tracy prop could be a good one. Now, the Jets, they're back on the road in the state of Florida as they visit the Jaguars. Gang Green, 3-point road favorites in this one. Now, when you consider the Jets' recent struggles to close games like we saw last week in Miami, do you trust them to cover here, or would you look at the over-under line, which is 42.5, for this matchup?
So all year I've been banging the drum that the Jets are just way overvalued on the betting market, and seemingly sports betting people couldn't get a hold of it as to what the spread should be for a Jets team that's very talented, but just miscoached, mismanaged, doesn't play well in the clutch, doesn't play well in the 2-minute offense. All those things are just little X factors that the sports betting community had a really hard time getting a hold of with the Jets. I'm drawing a line in the sand, though. I think that the disrespect has gone too far. I think that the Jaguars with Mac Jones, a bad defense, they're only getting 3.5. The Jets were, 6-point dogs to the Dolphins. Not too long ago, they were favored against the Steelers. They lost that game pretty dramatically, but not too long ago, the Jets were getting a ton of respect. Now they're getting almost no respect against one of the worst teams in the league. Mac Jones, terrible player. I got the Jets minus 3.5 here. It's actually one of my favorite bets of the weekend. There's just no way that the Jets should be 3.5-point dogs to a team that's going to be picking in the top 5. And the Jets are going to be picking in the top 5 as well. Don't get me wrong. But they've had a hard schedule. Some of their losses have actually come back and looked kind of, when they lost to the Denver Broncos, everyone's like, oh, the Woody Johnson, that was the last straw. You lost to the Denver Broncos. Yeah, that loss kind of held up pretty well. Their strength of schedule is really hard this year, and there was just a lot of weird things that happened throughout the year to make them where they are now, and that's one of the worst teams in the league. I still think they're too talented. Aaron Rodgers has something to play for. Devontae Adams has looked good recently. I don't really care that Breece Hall's out. I love Braylon Allen. I know they've been using Isaiah Davis. I'm kind of confused about that, but some things the coaching staff doesn't make sense. That's just the reality. But give me the Jets minus 3.5. It's actually one of my favorite bets of the weekend. Jaguars just aren't good enough in this spot.
All right, going with the Jets to cover here on Sunday against the Jags. All right, let's look at the late afternoon slate of games on Sunday because they're pretty good. We're going to start with the battle for Pennsylvania. 10-3 Steelers, they visit the 11-2 Eagles. Philadelphia, winners of 9 straight games. They're 5.5-point favorites in this one, Eric, with a total points line of 43. It's the Steelers defense versus the Eagles' versatile offense in this one. So which Pennsylvania team are you rolling with for this matchup?
In-state rivalry. You took the words right out of my mouth. I actually love this game for the Steelers. Let's go Pittsburgh. I think the Pittsburgh win this game outright. I think the Eagles are kind of in disarray despite winning many games in a row. A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts seem to be from some friction there. This just has all the makings of exactly what the Steelers like to play, and that's that hard-hitting, run-the-ball game. The Eagles, where they really thrive, right, is pass defense and rushing offense. Those are the two. That's their bread and butter. Their passing defense is the highest ranked on Pro Football Focus, and they have one of the MVP candidates in Saquon Barkley, along with the tush push and Jalen Hurts. But I actually think that plays into the Steelers' hands. I think that they can run the ball on the Eagles, and I also I think the Steelers can stop the run a little bit better than most teams as well. So for me, I'd take the Steelers +6. I think the Steelers money line. I think those are all fine wagers for the weekend. And there's some +200s hanging out there for the Steelers. I don't see that there's that much of a home field advantage since it's an in-state rivalry game. I'll take the Steelers here on the money line +200. They're probably one of my favorite underdogs of the weekend.
All right, one of your favorite underdogs of the weekend. I like that bet. I like that bet a whole lot. Let's see what happens in that one. Another AFC-NFC matchup. Got the 10-3 Bills visiting the 12-1 Lions. Detroit, hottest team in the league, on an 11-game winning streak, currently 2.5-point favorites in this one. Now, for this one, Eric, they expect points to be put up on the board, a lot of points. The total line for points is 54.5. How are you betting this matchup?
This one's a really good game, right? This is if the NFL had their way, this would be your Super Bowl matchup. So, you're in Detroit here. You're looking at two teams that love to run the ball. It's Josh Allen, it's Jared Goff. But it's really just that Lions offensive line that'll really make the difference here. The Bills defense has shown some holes in it recently. I mean, they just get 44 to the Rams. For me, I think the Lions -2.5 would be the bet for me. I'm not betting it directly. It's not one of my favorite bets of the weekend. My favorite bet of the weekend in this game is actually David Montgomery over 15.5 receiving yards. I like the running backs with the getting out of the backfield. Montgomery's covered that line in all but 3 games this year. He has over 30 in 4 straight. He hasn't covered since October 27th when they dominated the Titans 52-6 and they didn't need to throw the ball anymore. For me, I'm going to go with the Lions here -2.5. I think that they're the play. This Josh Allen, Michael Jordan thing where they're just having him do everything at 6 touchdowns against the Rams, and then he had the rushing, receiving, and passing touchdown the week before. I don't love that for the Bills long term. I think that they're going to need to get him some help, and I don't think that this is the team that they should just they're overusing him. I just feel like eventually something's going to happen. Chicken's going to come home to roost, and I don't love that strategy. As great of a player he is, I don't think that longevity-wise that this makes sense. So for me, I'm not going to be betting the Bills this weekend. I'm going to go with the Lions -2.5, but I love David Montgomery's receiving line. Give me his overs all day, every day. BetMGM had the best line on it, but you could also get like an alternate line on Bet365, like I mentioned before. I believe that's +900 for 50+ as well. Or I believe 40+ is +500 on FanDuel as well. So, David Montgomery receiving yards, that's your best bet for that game.
All right, best bet. David Montgomery got another prop. I like to ask you about a best prop that you have for the week. So, Eric, give me your best player prop for Week 15.
So I gave you 2 already. I'm going to give you another one here. It's going to be Jameis Winston over 34.5 pass attempts. He's covered that in 5 out of 6 games. The only game that he didn't cover that is the snow game on Thursday night against the Steelers. Jameis Winston is going to throw the ball all over this Chiefs defense, which is ranked number 27 in the NFL, according to DVOA, since Week 8. That's when they lost Jalen Watson, their star cornerback. For me, I think Jameis is, he is what he is. He's chaos, right? And he's a gunslinger. He doesn't hide who he is at this point. And it's fun. It's chaotic. Who doesn't like to bet on fun and chaos? But also it's data driven. 5 out of 6 games he's covered. I actually also like 45+ pass attempts. You can get that on Bet365 +450 for 45+. He's hit that in 3 out of his last 5. So that is excellent value. Again, I think the Chiefs are a very good chance to score some points here. The Browns defense isn't exactly anything to write home about either, but they let Jameis cook, and famous Jameis is gonna maybe even pull an upset here. This is gonna be interesting, but negative game script potential here based on the spread, so you're gonna get that equity there. But yeah, give me Jameis Winston over 35.5, 45 plus, and you can even get 50 plus at 10-1 on Bet 365. Those are your value plays there on the props. Like, I dropped all the props for you, Dexter. I got
You
them all.
did. You did. You gave them all. And look, you're right. Jameis, one thing, a couple of things. He's going to throw some picks, but he is going to throw the ball. He's going to throw the ball a lot, and he probably will. So I like the data behind that. Like you said, going over 34.5, passing attempts in 5 out of his last 6 games. So pretty good data set there. That is Erich Richter. He gave you his best bets. He gave you 3 props to look at this week. A lot of good information in what should be a very intriguing Week 15 of NFL action. Check Erich Richter out, sports betting analyst for the New York Post, and his work at nypost.com. Erich, appreciate you, man. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the bets. We'll talk soon.
Dex, I appreciate you, man.